Good evening, everyone. Hi, Pooja. Welcome all our viewers on this very informative platform, Global Mastermind, a novel community which is trying to resource all those inquisitive minds who had lot many questions in their brains, but they do not find any relevant answers to that. Global Mastermind explores certainly some different successful personalities from all over the world, and it aids to enlighten the mindsets to every other community which may belong to professionals, parents, schools, universities, or some MNC employees. Yes, the list is quite long. So today also we have eminent dignitaries with us who are going to be there with lot of views, and they are going to quench the thirst specifically of parents and teachers. We'll be discussing about Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, as this is the part one of the show. So herein we'll be talking about the first four stages of a child, right from the birth up to 11 years. We all know that positive parenting or teaching techniques, they work well for raising children. They need to be disciplined. They need to teach good moral values. And every parent, every teacher, they dream of having such children. However, it's not an easy feat. So let's begin our journey to know the psychology of our children. So, hence, I would like to request our event director of Global Mastermind, Ms. Rachna, to take over.
Thank you so much, Pooja ma'am, for apprising our audience with the Global Mastermind community. Certainly, for long, our audience was waiting for our show. So, dear audience, without keep you waiting more, I would like to introduce you all with our first panelist, Miss Ashwini from Mumbai. Miss Ashwini is a personal development NLP expert having experience of 15 years. She won Miss India International Dubai pageant and dual title of first runner-up and Mrs. Gorgeous as well. She has been a speaker on multiple lives and Divya Sholkam show also. Welcome, ma'am. Miss Ashwini, as you have experienced success scale at a very young age, and your parents might have proved you that way. So we would like to ask you that does prior psychological knowledge about children help adults or parents in any way in grooming them and directing them towards success?
First of all, thank you, Rachna ma'am and Pooja ma'am, for giving me this platform. It's a great opportunity, and I'm truly, truly honored. And coming back to my childhood, honestly, I come back from a very conservative family, and those days parenting style was very, very different the way it is now, right? And coming back to your question, personally, if you ask me, this study definitely helps because I do have a child who's 6 years old, and the entire study is driven around personality development of growth of the child at every stage. While I'm not going to talk about the stages, I'm sure We are going to have those in-depth discussions around across the stages. And at every stage, the child is going to face a psychological crisis, could be positive or negative in the form of outcome. Now, it totally depends what is the surrounding that we're going to give to the child. And there is no right or wrong parenting here. Everybody has its own unique style, and everybody, the whatever they're doing is they're doing to the best given the in the scenario. And to the point is, if the child is able to successfully, across every stage in the personality development, definitely his ability to deal the world, or you call the surrounding, is far going to be better. That is one. Two, for example, one of the stage I'm just going to name about it is trust versus mistrust, right? If the child has been given a surrounding and the environment in the form of conditioning, and the way we nurture the child, the child is going to be in much better position to face the need of his or her towards the world. That is something I personally believe truly in. And like I had mentioned, the entire study is focused on personality development. That is about one, understanding yourself, and social understanding. And it's a great combination one needs to focus on. And it is not easy. It's definitely not easy. Because as a child, if I would talk about myself, I have come across a lot of hurdles and I couldn't deal with it. And like I said, the parenting styles are very different, the way I was brought up and the way I'm bringing up my child right now. So the study definitely helps. And secondly, the way the mind is, we have heard about this conscious and subconscious mind, right? A conscious mind is very rational, very logical. It's like 1 plus 1 equals to 2. But a subconscious mind doesn't function that. One, it works 24 by 7. Two, not many people are even aware that the power lies in the subconscious mind, which is like 88%. And technically, the development of the child happens between 2 to 7 years. It might differ, but on an average, the development happens between 2 to 7 years, where the absorption is so very high. So it's very, very important that as a parent, or it's important to give the surrounding to the child to the best. And that is why you must have heard our elder people saying, feed the information, feed the right information, because our subconscious mind absorbs everything that comes in way. It's like it absorbs trillions of information, and we all of us have a different mind filtering, and we filter through different representational systems. What I mean by that is, uh, it's like visual, what you see, auditory, and what you feel, which is kinesthetic, and the last two are taste and smell. So these are five representative system we all function. And the dominant factor could be different for you versus me. So the same thing happens to the child. Maybe if my child is very kinesthetic and I am trying to teach the child in the form of auditory, he or she is not going to take the information inside. And that is where the differences or the struggle happens between the parent and the child, because they're not very sure how the child is going to absorb that information. So through the psychology, through the brain mapping, it's going to help you understand as a parent, okay, what is your child's strength? What are those brain waves functioning? Which are those which are going to function so faster for him or her, so that you as a parent or you as a teacher are able to align your teaching method or conversation method in that dominant style what the child understands. So, for example, my daughter is very high on visual. She understands all the information very easily when I talk to her in the visual form. Visual form meaning is showing her pictures, flashcards, showing in the form of a movie, or drawing something and showing her. So her absorption of information is way faster, instead of me just telling her in the form of words. So that is what the brain mapping exercise does for you. So it just helps you understand. The study just helps you understand what is the dominant style of your child. And if you're able to navigate that, it gets easier for the child also to pick up the things at a much faster and easier way. So most often our education system, right, it's a very conventional method. If you really go to see whatever has been taught in the textbook, you just it's a parrot reading, or there's no out of the box thinking. Absolutely, at least I see that in my school where my daughter goes, right? At times it does makes me uncomfortable, but that's a very conventional way. If 2 plus 2 is 4, it has to be 2 plus 2. It can't be 3 plus 1. And that is how the child is being taught. It's a very conventional way. So how do you bring the child out of that? And that is that you can only understand by understanding how your child is mentally navigating the way. And that can happen by when you understand every stage in the study, every stage how your child's mind is functioning. And you will be surprised, 90% of the brain development happens before kindergarten, during that phase. It's not after that. So imagine how important and how crucial it is as a parent to help navigate the child, because that ability, the way you have built, the way you've nurtured, the conditioning that we talk about, the experiences you give the child, you help the child to make the decisions even at that young age is very, very important. Because as the child is growing, he or she is going to carry all of this along. The decision making capability doesn't happen overnight. It happens from day one the child is being born, because that is how the nurturing, the conditioning happens. And all of this lies in your subconscious mind. And to activate that, it's very, very important to train the brain. So this is how I would say, to sum up, if the parent understands this part of the stages, the study, and how the entire thing functions, it's just going to help them to help the child navigate a little more better. And you are in alignment with the child. So you're not talking in two different directions. The child is talking about north and you're looking somewhere in the south. So when you understand that alignment, then you both are looking at the same direction. And that's exactly what I feel is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Ashwini. I think you have very aptly said that there is no term as a perfect parenting, right? We have to be real and one, and we have to understand the environment in which the child is being nurtured. Truly, ma'am, your words have really touched our heart, and I think we need to work on this aspect because it is such a crucial age of the child.
Yes.
Thank you, Miss
Thank you.
Ashwini.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, without keeping you waiting about for talking about Erik Erikson's theory of psychology, let's move ahead and call upon our next panelist, Miss Kavita Khanna. Miss Kavita Khanna, she has done MSc Psychology and has worked as a counselor as well. She was awarded as Best Student in Child Development in college, and presently she is an educator working in DPS with 16 years of experience. She belongs to Alaknanda, and we are really pleased to have her amongst us.
Good evening
Miss
to
Kavita,
everyone. Good evening, ma'am.
as we are talking about the first stage of Erik Erikson's theory, which covers the age from birth to 18 months. It's a very tender age, I must say. At this stage, the child is struggling somewhat between trust and mistrust. But we would like to know from you that how at such a age a child can develop the psychology of trust and mistrust.
Okay. I would like to begin with first defining what is development and how it is different from growth. So, development is basically a functional and a physiological change that you see in a child. So, from the time of birth to 1.5 years, which we're talking right now as the first stage of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, what I would like to focus on is that in case of development, that is how a child is changing. He is developing his skills, his capacity of dealing with situation with environment is changing. So we would think that a small baby, how is he going to do that? So it's not that. If a person is a human child, so when a child is born, he's born with his feelings, his emotions. He also knows how to express. So fairly a child knows that how am I going to express myself out. So we all know one thing, that the only way to express at this stage is crying. So why do they cry? Now, they have basically three main things that they want in return when they cry. One is affection, second is comfort, and third is basically love. And in case they are desiring for feed or any kind of physical nutritional
Ma'am, I think there is some
investment.
network issue.
Is it fine now? Can I
Now,
cut?
okay, ma'am, yes.
Okay. So three main things which I was talking about was affection, food, that is feeding time. The baby cries basically for either for food, either for love, either for affection, or for comfort. So basically they also understand that this is what my feeling is. But a caregiver, who's the primary caregiver, it can be a parent, it can be a person around in the family, the grandparents, they understand the basic needs of the baby, and according to those needs, the caregiver functions, returns back, or responds to the child. That develops the concept of trust and mistrust. For example, if the child's needs are not met, he's not fed on time, he doesn't get the feeling of comfort, then you would feel that the child also, a baby also behaves very differently when a mother comes back from office and say, oh, it doesn't, today my baby is not in the same form, is crying for the day long, and 1.5 hours it is crying. So we start assuming maybe he or she is hungry, maybe they have a stomach ache or something. But we don't understand they are basically crying for love, for affection, for comfort, probably that they miss the whole day. So a mother, as well as the parent or any primary caregiver, whoever is there to take care of the child, has to learn to assess that. So that is of course part of parenting, and it is a tough job, because when you become a parent, it's basically a full-time job. So you have to start off thinking from this direction as well, that the child needs you, and only way of expressing himself towards getting his needs satisfied is through crying at this stage. So secondly, what about growth? What is growth now? The growth is basically physical maturation, that is just the growth in the size of the organs. So when a child grows from 0 to 1 month to 2 months to 1.5, the organs are also developing. So the capacity of the body is increasing, and similarly, it affects the child's ability or skills or capacity to actually to be fed or whatever needs the need. Physical size, we all can see the baby grows, and there's need of change of clothes, and you have to buy every month different clothes. Similarly, what about the psychological needs? That is also changing. So from 0 to 1 month is different. From 1 to 2 months again is different. So when you start observing your child or baby, actually, that you see that infant in your hand, and you can actually feel the difference, that this is what the baby is trying to speak up, but they cannot verbally say. So this is basically your non-verbal communication. The child has learned, is
Kavita
born
ma'am,
with a lack of non-verbal communication. So they actually try to convey the message through crying. So I would like to focus on what is the difference between trust and mistrust. So what happens when there is no
Kavita
trust?
ma'am, actually your voice is getting stuck again and again.
Okay, is there a network issue?
Yes, ma'am, it's getting stuck in between.
Okay, I'll just change my net. Okay,
Okay,
am I
yes,
audible
visible.
now? Okay,
Yes,
thank
you're
you.
audible otherwise.
All right. So what I like to focus on is the difference between trust and mistrust. Now, what happens if there is mistrust? What happens if the conflict is there? So the first psychological conflict is between trust and mistrust. And if a parent is not able to meet the need, or the primary caregiver is not able to meet the need, then the sense of mistrust develops. Now, it has its own consequences, which is a child will develop the sense of fear, anxiety, and confusion, which will go on till the adulthood. So therefore, this stage becomes very, very important. That is forms the base to all other stages. If you have sense of trust, only then a baby will be, as a child, be trusting people around, have trust in the world around them. Otherwise, they will live with constant fear that my needs will never be met. So this stage becomes very important. How a parent can work upon or fix this or resolve this conflict is by being available, showing that they are dependent. The child is dependent on them and they are dependable. Secondly, and more importantly, is to be responsive, to respond to whatever needs a child is trying to express through crying. So this because crying is the only way the child can express it during that particular age and stage. Later on, it comes cooing, babbling. They start saying little words like little two alphabets, dada, baba, and they start expressing that what they actually need. But then before that, it is a tough stage. I agree, and it is very, very difficult for every parent, because every parent is different, every style is different, the timings or how you are, how much quality time you can spend with the child is different. But what is the main idea is that even if you're there for 1 hour with your baby, but just be completely with them, express yourself, talk to them in such a manner that they feel that they can be dependent on you, so that we don't put the child in the state of conflict, and we help them to pass on to the next stage, second state of autonomy versus shame and doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kavita. I think the examples that you quoted, I think many of us will be able to correlate with it. Definitely, that crying has given a child the powers to rule without any parts.
True, true. Definitely.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
ma'am.
much, Kavita ma'am. So, moving on to next stage two, that stage which covers the age group of 2 to 3 years, in which the child starts demanding autonomy and feels shame or doubtful. So to know more about it, let me invite Miss Mamta. She is a PGT psychology working in DPS Rohini, Delhi, having an experience of 15 years. She was appreciated by HRD ministry and has been using various innovative strategies to stimulate adolescent thinking. Thanks for being with us, ma'am.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. Um, Now, moving on to the next stage, when we talk about autonomy versus shame, in fact, it's so deeply connected to the other stages also. And I would actually, start this another aspect of parenting to touch on. Um, the kind of environment the child is provided with depends a lot on the parent, and it is such an automatic process that the kind of person that you are, the kind of parent that you are, is coming in from the way you have been parented. So whether you're able to give your child that space to trust that child, to give that child the environment, to be able to let the child be, that's a very important milestone for the child to achieve, because that is important for confidence building. Now, most of the time, what happens is the way we have seen our parents behave with us, we become the same kind of parent 99% of the time. And that is where it becomes so important to be a conscious parent. And, every action of yours is actually observed by the child. So, like we say, a picture says more than 1,000 words. So, it's not just what you tell the child will forget that. But what you are doing in front of the child will model. So that role modeling is happening, which is so important. I mean, a simple thing like an appreciation versus criticism. Now, the criticism might be for the purpose of improvement of the child. So the intention of the parent is not wrong. But as far as the child is concerned, the impact on the child is concerned, the child will start believing that I am no good. And this is where any kind of pointing out might hurt the child so deeply that the child might not share the true thoughts and feelings because of fear and punishment. So that's where it's important to let the child be, to give the space to the child. But somehow the concept of space is not very easily understood, particularly in a collectivist society like ours. So somewhere as parents we feel that I know the best for my child, but there is so much to learn from the originality of the child, the creativity of the child, the genuineness and the purity of the child. So that's where it's a learning process for the parents also. So coming to, I mean, connecting it to the autonomy versus shame, it's a very natural thing for the parent to uh, tell the child, point out to the child, stop the child, whatever the child is initiating, that might be interrupted because the parent might feel this is not the right thing to do. And because of that, the kind of impact on the child in terms of, it could lead to an embarrassing situation for the child, because the child was somewhere trusting that I'll be supported, I'll be given the environment where I'll be understood, even though all these feelings go on in adolescence as well, go on in childhood as well. But even at this stage, when the child is exploring, trying out new things, making new friends, meeting new people, and suppose we tell them, do not talk to strangers, so that will have such a strong impact on the child that the child will stop initiating interactions with the fear that the others who are new to me, I do not know them, they might be hurting me. So the kind of thoughts that we are giving to the child will actually have an impact on the future development. So as far as the initiation of the child into different activities is concerned, the kind of exposure that we provide to the child, that will also help the child understand that, a wide range of activities which will help him or her in brain development. So giving the space to the child, exploring with the child, it's, I mean, a simple thing like giving a smile can make a lot of difference for the child. We may not realize it, but when the child comes to us, we have to understand a lot of time the body language cues, the non-verbal communication that the child is actually trying to make, because that will determine will the child open up, or let's say we are busy in our work. With the online work, there's no work life balance. So suppose you're busy in your work and your child comes to you and the child is smiling, and you're so caught up in your work that suddenly what happens is that, uh, just give me one moment, I think there's some interruption. Just give me one moment, I'll just rejoin. Yeah, sorry about that. So what happens is that, suppose you're busy and caught up in your online work, and because of that, suddenly you're not able to respond to the child in the manner that the child was actually expecting you to respond to. So even a small thing like that is so important for the child. For you, it may not be important. You may not realize it because you were so caught up in the automaticity, and you were so busy with your work, and just trying to meet up a deadline. And that time the child got the message that I am not really cared for and wanted, because the child just wanted maybe you to smile, or just wanted you to be there physically and emotionally and psychologically. So somewhere, I mean, just kind of allowing the child to be, letting the child be, understanding the needs of the child, the basic simple need of love and emotion and happiness, connecting with the child, spending time with the child, understanding, playing, I mean, simple exploration. Even a lot of times parents forget to hug their children. The hug therapy works so well. It's just a little response to the child, where you're listening to the child. The touch therapy works and connects you so well with the child. So allowing the child to explore without judgments, without criticism, giving the child attention, where the child feels comfortable at home and can have the bonding at home, because that will reflect the bondings the child will have with the outside world, with the school, with the friends, with the other people. So it's extremely important to trust your child that it's okay to make mistakes. The child will make mistakes. It's not a blunder. We have also made mistakes, and that's how we've learned. So being with the child and not reacting to it. The moment you react, which is such an automatic thing to do, the moment you react, it immediately shuts the child, because the child somewhere feels that, I'm not accepted. And that, such instances, because children are very smart, they can sense things. You don't have to tell them everything, they can sense. And according to that, they will actually determine their behavior in future. So that's extremely important, particularly when you're anxious or you're angry. And even like I remember an instance where this friend was sharing that her son was not sleeping at night, and she was trying always, and of course she also got hyper and she also got anxious. And then it struck her that she was anxious and she was transferring her anxiety onto the child. So how could she expect the child to feel secure and safe and to relax? So then first she calmed down, and the vibration that she was emitting thereafter were peaceful and positive, and that allowed the child to rest. I mean, there are things which, if we actually think about it consciously, there is so much to do in terms of conscious parenting, to break away from whatever lacunas were there in the way we were parented, and the good things that we can try out in a conscious manner, in a positive manner. Not to say not to scold the child, but the child should also know why he's being scolded without being criticized. So rather than criticism and judgment, it can be a discussion so that you understand the child's perspective also. At the same time, allow the child to make mistakes and learn from it and discuss it. So the child's perspective or the worldview builds up at this time. So it's extremely important to give that space to the child to understand, at the same time be available and respond emotionally and psychologically. So that's about it from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Mamta. Ma'am, I would like to ask any of the tips that you would like to give, any specific tip to maintain a balance between this autonomy and shame.
Yeah.
Any specific tip?
Right. I think it's extremely important that when you are exploring different aspects with the child, you allow the child to take the initiative. So when you are giving that space to the child to take the initiative, and the child is taking the initiative, somewhere, that independent approach will come in, where you do not do helicopter parenting. You're not available all the time. You're not hovering around the child, and you're letting the child be. At the same time, you can connect with the child to see at what points does the child really want you. So apart from, like, the shame builds up because of the criticism and the judgments, because we have our own expectations which we impose on the child. We want to fulfill our wishes and our dreams, unfulfilled desires, through the child. So it develops because of that. So if we can actually be more aware, rather than just kind of reacting to situation, if we can just think, take a minute. Suppose the child says something very derogatory and you're not expected it as a parent. So now it will be a difficult situation for you also. But the moment, because obviously adults want to be in charge and in control, or at the same time the adults always want to do everything. Now with that, the child will not be able to initiate activities because the child knows the parent is there. So there'll be a dependency that will come in. And the other extreme, where emotionally charged situations come in, where you're reacting because you want things a certain way, and obviously the child will not be able to fulfill your expectations. So to drive a balance between the two, one, reflection is very, very important, because the moment you take a pause from the automatic situation, the moment you take a back seat, you become a third participant. You don't really get entangled with the situation, or enmeshed with the situation, or with your own emotions being, overflowing into that situation. You take a back seat, you reflect, you take a pause, you take deep breaths, you calm down yourself, and then you think, you ask your inner self, what is the right thing to do at this point of time? How do I? It's like a divine intervention. So you're allowing the higher self to operate rather than the conscious self to operate. So that's the tip from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mamta. Truly, knowingly or unknowingly, we forget that children imbibe; they are our reflections only. Thank you, Mamta ma'am, for your wise words.
My
Let's
pleasure.
move ahead to next stage.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, it was a deep insight. It's a great learning from all of them. I mean, learning from such experienced people who really know that what are the deep insights of children, that really matters a lot. So, thank you so much, Mamta ma'am, and all the panelists who have discussed the things till now. We are really very thankful to all of you. Okay, so next we are putting forward before you Mr. Rupesh. Good evening, Mr. Rupesh. Welcome you on Global Mastermind platform. I would like to know, to acquaint my audience with Mr. Rupesh. Mr. Rupesh is the principal of JKK Nataraja Matriculation Higher Secondary School. He's from Kumarapallam, Tamil Nadu. That's a big deal. Welcome you, Mr. Rupesh, on Global Mastermind platform. So, herein we are going to talk about stage three with Mr. Rupesh. Mr. Rupesh would be talking about that how preschool age children, who are right from 3 to 5 years, how they develop initiative and guilt. Right. So, Rupesh sir, we would like to know from you that how children they develop a sense of initiative at such an early stage. And being a principal, please tell us that what is the role of school in a healthy psychosocial development of a child at this stage?
Good evening to one and all. First of all, I thank this mastermind to giving me an opportunity to present the current scenario of child. And first of all, I would like to point out it is not only the stage 3 to 5. Even now, if I'm right, Pooja ma'am, you would have taken some time to decide on this particular program, to plan for this program. So this word of initiative takes some kind of a time, some kind of a confirmation, some kind of a confidence to take up. And also there is a kind of a hangover along with this initiative in the name of guilt, whether things will be going on right. Let us start at a particular time, take up some instructions, share some instructions so that things are set right. So it is not only in stage 3 to 5, even we elders, we had a very similar scenario or situation some half an hour back. So this is a lifelong process. When you talk about Erikson, you could have just seen in all his stages, he points out some 8 stages. In his 8 stages, the point that he says is every stage has a specific purpose. And this purpose, it depends upon how a child has been nurtured, trained, guided, and also supported. The word of support plays a vital role nowadays. And that too, this program, after this COVID, that is post COVID, we all have heard a comment, there is something called a learning gap. But when you take into this concept of Erikson, you can understand learning takes place everywhere, in all situations, in all surroundings. From our previous speakers also, you could have noted down that everywhere education takes place. Education is a fixed part, whereas learning is a continuous part. The things which are fixed are what we, as ma'am has said, 99% we are trying to be our parents. And another 10% we are trying to be other parent, looking here and there. We don't have something called to prove ourselves as a parent. So what is called this initiative? This child, when he begins his life in the world, the first day of birth, from there, he is in the thirst or in search of what we call it as knowledge or wisdom or experience or practice or whatever. Only thing, it is being guided and supported by some elders in the name of father, mother, uncle, aunt, sister, society, teacher, and likewise. So when he is in the seek of support, all that is required is not our perception and our way of interpretation. Most of things has been interpreted the way we have been brought up, what we have seen. So when a child first he tries to imitate the first parent or whoever he admires and whoever he feels is having a trust in him. So when he tries to admire and tries to imitate, it is the duty of the observer, so-called the elders or supporters or guiders, to guide the child in the right way in the name of encouragement, motivation, and supportive correction. It should not be simply discouragement or a threat or a scolding or a shock. Even the scolding need not be a scolding. The pitch of sound that you use to interact with the child also depresses the mind of the child. So here, the total building, this is a very, very crucial stage where he is getting into the society in the name of preschoolers, toddlers for LKG and UKG, where he is out from a safe situation and is getting into what we call a school atmosphere where the total role of a parent is played by the teacher. So the teacher should not have a perception and act. The teacher should have a mindset of acceptance. So the child tries to first confirm and observes what is happening, confirms what is supporting it, and then tries to adapt and finally adopts. Before the situation of adopting a teacher as a parent, if the teacher behaves as a teacher, as a ringmaster, as a trainer, then the concept of humanity is lost and human beings fail. So rightly said by the first speaker, observation. Education and learning takes place through eyes. That is the first mode of education, where the surrounding has to be prepared in such a way to the expectation of the society. So education is for the benefit of the society and the betterment of the society and the better living of human. So just to improve the standard of living only, we are getting into what we call it as education. But the standard of living is not actually pre-planned. Every moment it is changing. The life, the total concept of life is there's nothing permanent other than change. So we have to be sure of what change we are going to perform and what is the change that is accepted. And when that change is expected from that particular child, surrounding should be given, atmosphere should be given, opportunity should be given with a supportive manner so that the particular child feels confident on what he wants to do and starts the initiative. So when we talk about this versus initiative versus guilt, it is not actually versus. It's not a thing to be winning. It is the thing to be balanced. So this initiative and this guilt has to be balanced, and this guilt which is being faced by the child should be supported, guided, and as by the words of my previous speaker, we learn from mistakes. No man is perfect, but every man can practice to become perfect. So this guilt, when balanced, learned, and corrected, this balancing of what we call it as initiative and guilt, when is supported, when it is properly balanced, the child can be a good successor and he will be a best leader possible. All that is lacking today is, it is sorry to say, we are in a position to learn parenting rather than do parenting, which is being, we have been a little bit away from what we call it as a parent. And nowadays things have been conducted in the form of courses and some kind of webinars to understand what is parenting, which is the pathetic situation of the younger generation. I humbly request this global mastering platform, all those who are joined as participants as well as those who are observing, to please take care of this next generation, which needs more of nurturing rather than some kind of torturing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That is the deep insight, which can come from such experienced personalities. You have beautifully said that a balance needs to be maintained between initiatives and guilt. And whereas we people, like we teachers, sometimes we think that of course, yes, gone are the days when with bullwhip we can, just handle the children. Our days were there when teachers were used to do that, but now the days have come when such balances are to be maintained so that we can groom them well and we can polish them well. And that is the key to success for today. Thank you so much, sir. That was really great to hear to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Next, we would like to put forward before you Miss Hemlata. Hemlata, ma'am, very good evening.
Good
Hemlata, ma'am,
evening,
am I
ma'am. Good
yeah.
evening.
And Hemlata ma'am. I would like to make my audience acquainted with Hemlata ma'am. She is renowned counselor and rehabilitation professional. She's from Delhi. So she'll be talking about stage 4 of Erikson's theory of psychology. She'll be telling us that at the age of 6 and right 6 to 11 at the school age, how versus inferiority complex this attitude can be developed among students and how can be it is easy. So Hemlata ma'am, we would love to know from you that this is the most competent stage at right from 6 to 11, right? So what
Yes,
can
ma'am.
be the different sources or what can be the different ways of encouragement which can make a child develop his beliefs in his skills and which can reduce his attitude of inferiority? Please put a light.
Yeah, definitely. Namaskar and good evening to everyone. And thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And it's indeed my pleasure and privilege to be part of this August gathering and being amongst esteemed panelists. And it's been really enlightening to hear all my co panelists who spoke before me. And they were really, truly practical in their approach. And that has helped me to build upon the next stage of inferiority initiate sorry, this is my fourth stage which we'll be talking about out of all the stages of development. And Erik Erikson has been relevant and was relevant and will remain relevant in times to come, as he developed one of the very important theories of psychosocial development. And as per your question, all the elements which are very important in developing the child's competence, which is the virtue of this stage. And here the child starts feeling able or unable. So what happens in the environment? So when the child reaches school, so the whole landscape changes. The moment he lands up in school, there is a concept like people saw people, people learn from people. This particular saying holds very good when we describe this stage, because there's a lot of social interactions happening. There's a lot of transaction between the teachers, his peers. He gets introduced to various adults who are there in that scene. And more so when we are facing this, we are having this nuclear setup in the at the families. So when the child goes out, he meets different individuals who are very much part of his life. So the landscape changes, and we have set up the landscape where he is actually learning a lot. And when we look at the environment, which is full of activities, which is very stimulating, when it comes to learning, the child is always encouraged, and the child is getting support. His or her creativity gets fostered, and definitely the child is able to be industrious, so the child learns to be hardworking. He or she knows and is able to recognize his or her capabilities and strengths, the weaknesses. And there is one thing which comes in them is the ability to recognize themselves in comparison to others. They are generally, they have peers in the class, and they go to school. There they know someone so and so plays very good. So these things really make a difference. The child recognizes their skills, and then their sense of industriousness developed. And if these qualities and strengths, they lead to really think, I can do it, I'm able to do it, or I'm unable to do it. They can always get up and tell that if I use my skills, I be hardworking, I would really make a difference and be productive. So productivity is something which comes up from their environment if they get a lot of opportunities. So something which is very important here, the virtue which is called competence, which develops in children. And when we see, they come to know about their skills, they develop a lot of skills, they learn lots of things. So I'll just give you an example of two children. I mean, one is really struggling hard when some subject, some science, maybe it's a science subject is there. The child is struggling very hard, unable to do the school work. And actually the parents are also aware, parents understand in a realistic way. They start supporting, they help the child to tied up this situation. They talk to them, like Ma'am Mamta said, it's very important to be available, to discuss, to support, to guide them, to navigate their feelings, their issues, what, how, and where. And they also they work with very close coordination with teachers. They also tell teachers, my child faces this problem in this particular area. So there the teacher also takes care of such things, that this child is facing this problem. They support, they guide, and they assist. So this child learns to know that things can be solved. They develop the mastery, they have this positive self concept about themselves. But when you take the other case, similar child of similar age, suppose in grade 4, struggling with maths, and the child doesn't know how to go about it, his assignments are bad, and the teacher is also very critical, and parents are not very interested in assisting this child. And then there is a problem, there is a state
They
of
don't have time, ma'am. Actually, they don't have
complete
time for all this. They come
cluelessness.
out with these
Then
excuses.
I want to be very blatant here, Pooja ma'am, that if you have a child, you have to have time,
Of course,
because
yes.
you are not
Of course,
bringing up a
yes.
commodity. You are
Yes, of
not
course,
bringing a
yes.
commodity home. You are bringing
I'm
a
just
human.
I'm just speaking on behalf of those parents, ma'am, who just come out with this
No, no,
excuse,
no, no, no,
yes,
no, no.
like they, and
I,
they don't have time as they are busy.
as a
So of course,
counselor,
yes,
as
I
a
agree to
as
that.
a parent myself, as a teacher,
Yes,
as a human being, first of all, I don't believe in this. Then
of course,
I mean,
yes,
what is the time? What is the difference between us and animals? You see,
yes,
animals, at least
exactly,
they wean
exactly.
off their children, make them independent. we
True, true.
we I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, we hang on to our children till, I mean, ages, till we
True,
are
true.
old. We want to be around our children, we want to care for them, worry for them. That is
Yes,
something,
that's right.
I mean, not to be considered. So what happens here? The second child we were discussing, this child is completely clueless, doesn't know how to handle such a tricky situation. So what happens? In the first case, the child developed a positive self concept and industriousness. There is a ability to try things. There'll be competence. They would know that if I try and the atmosphere around me is helping me out, I would definitely be able to tide over my issues. There's a positive
Absolutely. Absolutely.
industry develops, industriousness जिसको हम बोलते हैं, as per
Exactly.
Mr. Eric Erickson. And in the second case, there will be inferiority complex, inadequacy. The child would always be in doubt about himself. Ki, how will I handle such a situation? Means I'm clueless. My teacher is neither supporting because parents don't bother, and children are not so open that way. That I should go. I know I should go and tell ma'am that ma'am मुझे नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. I'm really confused with this particular concept. So there has to be some adult. So
Yes.
feedbacks from adults, support from adults also help in developing these two things. Industriousness definitely comes when we give a lot of positive feedbacks to children. We tell them you are very good at it. You should pursue this as an hobby. But here, praises, over praise, over encouragement, overindulgence leads to completely a flop show.
Downfall.
You
Yes.
say there is a sense of arrogance developing in that child. अरे मैं
Yes.
तो बहुत अच्छा हूँ, I am the best, I am the rock star. ठीक है. I mean, appreciation goes a long way, but it should not be, balance,
Yes.
more sugar in tea or coffee we are developing, I mean drinking, will definitely spoil that thing. That drink gets spoiled. So definitely everything has to be balanced. Play, praise, and even criticism, healthy criticism. We need to teach our children that हम criticize अगर कर रहे हैं, if I'm teaching you, telling you something, this is the shortcoming, you should take it positively. So the balancing act by the parents is something which is very important. So when it so I hope I answer your question, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. That was great learning from you as well, because this is the actual inquisitiveness of parents. You gave them the way that yes, it's not always necessary to come out with this excuse that yes, they don't have time. If we guys we give birth to them, so we need to take care of them too. They need to be
Definitely, ma'am.
taken care, and the
And
inferiority.
one more point I just wanted to say here is something that support and encouragement is the backbone of parenting, but not over supporting. I mean,
Yes,
don't make them incapable, don't make them incapacitated. That वो thought process चली जाती है. So something
exactly.
very important, unconditional love and support goes a long way. To, I mean, as a teacher also, as a student also, as a parent also, we need to offer that, and we need to actually teach them all these things, which is very important. Because और एक realistic approach है, parents must understand their children's failure and explain them with that realistic
Exactly. They
approach.
need to
हाँ,
show this that
हाँ,
why they
instead
have
of
failed.
हाँ,
You should not
yes,
be
yes,
just only to be scolded for that. That okay,
yes,
you
ma'am,
can't fail and then you need to be punished and so on. That child
definitely.
has got more marks and all. Of course, yes, that balance.
Definitely. And outcomes, then efforts need to be really appreciated. It's not always because we know we all are, we as country are academic oriented. We just believe in results, which is something we need to change a little here. Because what matters is our child is making an effort, which has to be appreciated, so that we develop that sense of growth in them. Right? So outcomes are not always, हमारी गीता में भी कहा गया है कि
Yes,
हमेशा
exactly.
आप हमेशा रिजल्ट की चिंता मत करिए. डोंट वरी अबाउट द रिजल्ट व्हिच इज कमिंग. सो बीइंग माइंडफुल पेरेंट.
कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते मां फलेषु कदाचन
यस,
मां कर्म फल हेतु ब्रह्माते संगो तत्व
yes
कर्मणि.
ma'am, yes ma'am, exactly. So
Thank you,
parenting
ma'am.
also brings in these teachings from our mythology, which is very important. So that's about from me. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Hemlata ma'am. Thank you so much. That's a brilliant insight given by you. Our audience were really very thoughtful. Thank you so much for being there with us. So next, putting forward before our audience, Miss Archana. So Archana ma'am will be love to have your guidance as well in today's show. Archana ma'am, I would like to acquaint ma'am with our audience. She is founder and trustee and principal of St. Joseph High School. She has joined us from Thane, Maharashtra. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being there with us. Although this online platform make the journey easy so that we can get connected with each other. Thank you, Archana ma'am, for being here. Archana ma'am,
Thank you.
We would like to know from you as today we have discussed all the stages, first four stages, as this was part one of the show. Right. So today we have discussed the first four stages of Erikson's theory of psychology. So I would just like to take your insight also. We would like to know that out of all these four stages, which stage you feel that is very crucial to serene the psychosocial development of the child, and why that happens.
At the outset, let me thank you, Pooja ma'am and Rachna ma'am, for calling me on this platform. And thanks to the online media, I can be wherever I want from wherever I am. So that's really wonderful. And I'm glad that you told me to sum up at the end, because the stage wise theory which each eminent speaker spoke over here was quite comprehensive. Uh, for me, it's important that the theory should be applicable in life rather than just the theories, learning the theories themselves. And I think we all know that man is inherently a social animal. And this was the first theory post the Freudian era, which spoke about the social interactions. And without social interactions, we are nowhere in life. So, right from the time the child comes into the world, he or she has interaction with the environment, with the people around. And 300 years after Shakespeare said that all of life is a stage, Erik Erikson spoke about the 8 stages of human development or human psychosocial development. It's a very beautiful theory, and it's very much applicable in today's day and time, especially when our children are so much stuck into gadgets and they lack social interaction. They lack the ability to trust other peers. So, if you ask me, the most important stage over here is the stage where the child develops hope in the future, because there's so much of despair, there's so much of negativity in the world, that the first stage ideally would be the best, because initially when the child gets positives from the environment, when the child is getting his needs met, like in the first speaker spoke about the needs of the child being met because he or she cries and gets what he or she wants. That is the very first stage, the early childhood experiences of the child, when the child learns that the world is going to be there for him, someone in the world is going to be there to take care of his or her needs. If that is not met at the beginning itself, the child suffers basic mistrust issues, which carries on later on in life, even into adulthood. So even in adulthood, that person would not be able to trust someone else, would not be able to have warm, strong.
Oh, I guess ma'am has just got disconnected with us. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I audible,
So,
ma'am? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this was one theory which emphasized the social interaction right from the beginning, right from the first stage, wherein the child developed hope. And without hope, there is nothing to live for in the world. You know, in Erikson's words himself, if in his own words, if life is to be sustained, then hope must remain. What
Exactly.
Erikson spoke, hope must remain, and without hope, hope is the basic cornerstone for all human life. So, with the first stage, the child develops a sense of hope in the world, and beyond that, when he goes, if you look at the different stages from a very wider perspective, the first stage definitely is important, but equally important, I would say now, is when we think about helicopter parenting and we have all these terms where the parents are constantly breathing down the child's neck, trying to do this, trying to do that with the child. I would say the second step is much, much, much relevant today, because here in the second stage, which is between the age of say 1.5 to say 3 years, the child is learning to be independent, the child is learning autonomy, he's learning or he's taking certain steps in order to make sense of the environment. When he comes into the world, he has no sense what is happening around him, he has no sense what people are expecting from him. But this is a time when the child tries to make sense of the things around him, and he learns that he has to do certain things on his own. Even a simple thing like maybe even wearing a t-shirt, finding the correct armholes, or something like feeding him himself or herself independently. These are those small
That's true.
tasks for us which so difficult for a child. And when the parent is a supporting parent, by giving the kind of right support without being overly dominating, without being overly controlling, without taking all the decisions for the child, when the child gets the opportunity to take those small decisions, that is when he starts developing faith in himself. That is when he starts developing confidence in himself. And that's
Exactly.
very needed now in today's day and time. And I think from my perspective, I would say yes, trust and hope, which comes from the initial stage, is important. But equally important is the opportunities that we give our children. Like behind, it is rightly said that behind every child who is self believing in himself, who is strong and who's got good positive self image, there is a parent who first believed in him. There is a parent who first trusted in him and let him or her explore the environment independently. We need to be there. I'm not saying we have to just let them do their own thing. We need to be there, but we need to be there at such a distance that we are not making the child feel that he or she cannot do a thing without the parents being around. So it's important for us to understand that our presence is very much needed, but not at the cost of the child losing the much needed autonomy that he would want to get at that stage. So that I feel is important. And let me go back to what Erikson himself said, that his theory is just a mere tool to understand human behavior. It's not based on actual fact, or it's not something that you can just take the theory and apply to real life. One needs to take what's important. And there is no right parenting, like it has already been spoken over here. There is no hard and fast rule. Each one of us, we became parents, and we also did not know what to do with it, and then it's kind of touch and go. So I would say, yeah, building hope, building willpower, building confidence, giving autonomy to the child is most important beyond anything else. Academic successes will follow only if the child learns to believe in himself, only if the child has faith and hope in his abilities. And
Exactly.
that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Archana ma'am. Really good to hear you all. She has rightly said, my dear audience, that yes, it's important to know that the parent-child relationship is actually a sort of a two-way street, right? In other words, we can say that a partnership between a parent and their child, it is sort of that. But these psychology, of course, yes, they help us out in knowing that what steps we can take. But certainly it depends, as ma'am Archana ma'am has said, it depends child to child and parent to parent, that how we can go about it, because every child has different potential power to help the entire world, right? So he just needs the right guidance and support. Thank you, Archana ma'am.
Absolutely.
It was great to hear to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
So,
so
for the
much.
end of the show, I would like to put forward our all eminent personalities who had joined us today. Um, Kavita ma'am is here with us, and then Ashwini ma'am is also there with us. We can have Hemlata ma'am also, and Mamta ma'am as well. Um, all right. Okay. Any one of you who would like to share that? How did you feel like being over here on the global platform?
I can go.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ashwini ma'am. We
May-
would love to hear from you.
Hi, hi everyone. Beautifully discussed. I just loved everybody's point of view and the way it was. Every stage was discussed, and the way Archana ma'am summed up was amazingly beautiful. So to me, it was a great learning myself. Me being a parent, of course, every day is learning when you have a child, because we are exploring the path, and every time we come across some situation with the child, it's new, something new. Even I'm learning at the same time, because possibly I wouldn't have explored that kind of a navigation. So this theory of entire, the way it was discussed, just blew my mind up. Actually, it was a refresher. Not that we are not aware of all of this, yes we are, but when you really put that into a structure, it gives a clear path, how you can. But yes, technically it's not that these are the rules or the steps, but yes, it does help a navigation to a parent, and I do come across a lot of parenting coach. I haven't understood the concept what they really do, but I guess if as a parent, if we keep our mind open and flexible and approachable, I guess that would cut the deal. Then you don't have to really go anywhere else, because you are also learning with the child, and that itself is a beautiful journey. And this platform, I must say, it's a great platform to come and discuss such amazing topics. Being what we did today, and I can't thank enough to each one of you. I'm really blown up and totally in awe of the way it was discussed. Thank you everybody, and I really enjoyed it personally. So
Thank
over
you,
to
ma'am.
you, Pooja ma'am.
Thank you,
Yes.
Ashwini ma'am. Thank you so much. We were also heartily, welcome you all, and thankful to all you. All you guys have spared your time, and being the part of our show and getting your deep insight to explore in front of our audience. That was a big deal. Thank you so much for to all of you for being there with us. We are having Rupesh sir also, so I'll be just offing my camera and I'll be putting Rupesh sir on the screen if Rupesh sir would like to say anything. Rupesh sir, can you connect me, Rupesh sir?
Can I add one point
Yes, yes,
from
Hemlata.
Mr. Erik Erickson
For
only?
sure, for sure.
So, there is in every child, at every stage, there is a new miracle and unfolding. I truly believe in that. If we believe in uniqueness of a child, then definitely we would know how to proceed. So, all the parents and teachers and everyone watching us should understand and take away this message that we must believe in child's innate capabilities, and we must believe the child belongs to us. We must not be on the other side, opposite side. We rather come towards side of the child and then work and understand, and then only we can give them the values like empathy and understanding, problem solving, rather than picking up things to do it for them. For me, very important thing is to make the child independent. That's what we discussed, Pooja ma'am, that we need to make child independent in every way, in their physical world as well as in their psychological, mental part of it. That's very important. So
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
like a miracle to have a child. It's really a booming, buzzing life,
And
when you
I
have
guess
a child
our
around. So
responsibilities
take
never
the time
gets
out. Yes, ma'am.
our
Yes.
responsibilities, it never gets end. Maybe being a teacher, maybe being parent, it never gets end if we are having children around us, right? And it's not only the story of our own children, it's the story of every child who's there around
Yes,
us.
yes, yes,
So
yes, ma'am.
once
Definitely,
again,
we touch so many lives every day, so it's very important to understand that uniqueness and diversity. Thank you so much for giving me this
thank you, ma'am.
opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, each one of
Thank you,
you.
ma'am.
We are very thankful to all of you once again for gracing this platform with your presence. Thank you to all the dignitaries. So, here we are signing off. We'll be meeting all together once again next week on Sunday with part two of Erikson's theory of psychology. Let's see how are more parents and more teachers who just want to have the need, to know this psychology so that they can put up their children on good platforms, on success mode, and give them more and more payments wherein they can explore themselves with more skills. So we'll be having learning with more dignitaries next Sunday. Please join us. We'll be meeting in part two of Erikson's theory of psychology with some more dignitaries. Thank you so much, everyone.